On November 18, 2017, Governor Willie Obianor of Anambra State surprised political analysts and crystal ball gazers when he swept nearly every polling booth in the state to win in 21 local governments out of 21 local governments in the gubernatorial election in Anambra State. It was an unprecedented victory in the political history of Nigeria and a watershed in the evolving democratic culture of Anambra State. But as it turned, it was also one victory that has positioned Anambra State a point of reference for purposeful democracy in West Africa and turned Governor Willie Obianor into an important voice on democratic dialogue and peaceful elections. It was not a surprise, therefore, when the United Nations chose Anambra State as the vantage point from which to preach the gospel of peaceful elections to the entire Southeast region in the build-up to the 2019 general elections in Nigeria. And so, on the invitation of the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, the political and religious leaders of the Southeast region, as well as the royal fathers in the region, youths and other stakeholders arrived in the Governor's Lodge at Amobia for a pre-2019 election dialogue. It was an eclectic gathering that had representatives from across the broad spectrum of the southeastern region. As would be expected, the special representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Ibn Chambers, was in attendance. The event got underway with the Secretary to the Government of Anambra State, Professor Solo Chukwulobelo, outlining the agenda and defining the scope of the engagement. He attributed the decision of the United Nations to host the event in Anambra State to the string of successes that the state had recorded in its democratic evolution, referencing the last Anambra gubernatorial election as a possible motivator.
And I think the United Nations, EU, and a number of other concerned development partners looked at what happened in Anambra State over those two elections and realized that this state probably presents the model for electioneering across the country. Yes, you will recall that those two elections, especially the governorship elections, the electioneering proper was very rigorous, very intensive, but conducted in the spirit of brotherhood, oneness, and so on. And as soon as that election, the results of that elections were announced, the states, the various political actors came together and acknowledged the results. And that has remained, or that has become a model for the rest of the country. And I understand that is what informed the United Nations to want to hold this interactive session for Southeast in Anambra.
Setting the tone for the dialogue, the governor of Anambra State, Chief Willie Madabrochukwu Obianor, shared his experience as an elected leader and as a second-term governor who had gathered some highly useful experience from his historic landslide re-election victory. He advised aspirants to always remember that the campaign for re-election starts once they were elected into office.
As soon as you are elected into an office, from that day, your campaign for your re-election does what? Commences. Similarly, for the voters, same thing I am also telling you. As soon as you elect the candidates to office, their campaign starts. You're watching what they are doing. It's not this hula baloo in 3, 2, or 1 month that will make the difference. I'm sure you all agree with me. Because it's very important that we have that side. You don't leave what you should do and wait for just 3 months to make all the noise, beat up people, do all kinds of things. You cannot fool everybody. You can fool some that day for the 3 months, but most of the people would have made up their mind whether you are doing well or it's clear. That is the lowest common multiple in winning elections. As soon as everybody has that in mind, that when they come into office, they need to account for their stewardship, and they start recognizing what they should do for the people. And the same people that will vote will be observing the people. Then when the election time comes, there won't be any much need for too much noise making all over, saying one thing or the other, recounting what you've done or what have you.
Governor Obiano also spoke extensively on the importance of the PVC and the need to create enough voter awareness. He further reiterated the assurances of the presidency that the 2019 general elections will be free and fair, and urged political gladiators in the coming contest to play by the rules.
You have a role to play. You must help in the announcement to insist that members of your congregation or your communities or wherever are asked to pick up their PVCs. It's very critical, because that's preparation for the election. Very, very critical. If all of us pick these PVCs and come out that day to vote, some of these problems you have in the election would have dissipated. You know, the apathy in the election is also very high. I'm not sure it's actually 21%, it's about 32% or thereabout. You know, that apathy, that means over 68% of people that are supposed to vote did not show up. That's what it means. You find that you have a responsibility as Igwe, as a PG of the community, as a clergyman, that's a civic responsibility that people should be educated to come and pick up their PVCs. That day, come out and vote. It's one day in a year. A sacrifice for that day will not be too much for you. It's very important.
Governor Obiano also frowned at the usual perception of elections as a time to make fast money from aspirants and candidates, and described it as a hopeless mentality. He also praised the youth of Anambra State for maintaining critical vigilance over the voting process during the last gubernatorial election in the state, and emphasized the need to give more access to the youth in the electoral process.
People used to accuse the youths of being branded, being a part of Toguri and what have you. In Anambra here, in the two very successful elections we've had, we showed that youths are not that way. In Anambra here, what they did, which I commended, was that when they finished voting, they waited at the polling booth to make sure that the ballot papers were counted. And when it was counted and pasted on the wall, they used their smartphones to take pictures. And also, they followed the ballot box to INEC to make sure that nobody hijacks it. That was what we did in Anambra. The presidency has reassured that they will provide adequate security in this coming election. The presidency has reassured that this coming election will be free and fair. Let me also caution on the Southeast, this may be peculiar to us. We have very rich people. I'm not saying other parts of Nigeria don't have rich people. But some of our rich people pay attention on the election. This candidate must win. So they go the full hog to make sure that whether by crook or hook that the fellow wins. That is not necessary. Let the process run. Don't try to influence the umpire, or umpires as the case may be. The distinguished talked about processes, ad hoc list and all those stuff. These are matters of details, but it is important that that is noted. The role we must play is very critical. Education, education, education. Election is not a do or die affair.
Given a rundown of the electoral history of Anambra State, the senator representing Anambra Central Senatorial Zone in the National Assembly, Chief Victor Rume, warned that the traumatic experience created by poor management of elections in Nigeria in the past should not be allowed to repeat itself in 2019. He urged Ndi Anambra to prepare to take their destiny in their own hands in the 2019 elections emphasizing that Nigeria would never be able to build a prosperous democracy if the citizens fail to challenge people who cross the line.
Going by the experience of the Southeast in the management of elections since 2003, I will tell you that it's not been a good story for all of us. Most times people aspire to go into leadership without being prepared to go through the proper channels, allowing the people to vote and let their votes be used to decide who moves forward. People choose to disrespect the rules and the laws guiding the processes. As a result, anytime we go through elections, what we witness will be the bastardization of the process. Across political parties, it has been the same experience, but some are more notorious than others, where people want to be a lawmaker, governor, or even president without being prepared to accept the will of the people. Laws are made, guidelines are prepared by the electoral umpire. People will abuse those guidelines and hope to get in. And our experience has been that whoever crosses through fair or foul means will be celebrated. Before you know it, they ask you to leave and wait for another time. Our democracy has continued to suffer as a result of this. Anambra State must be prepared to take their destiny in their own hands. Let us purge ourselves of the attitude of saying, leave it, even if the person comes in from the window. The person is either your nephew, your cousin, your in-law, and you say, leave it. We cannot build a prosperous democracy if we don't challenge people who cross the line.
Bringing the weighty voice of the elders to bear on the conversation, the Obi of Onitsha, His Royal Majesty, Igwe Nemeka Achebe, spoke on behalf of the Southeast Traditional Rulers Council.
We've talked about peaceful elections. I think we've been assured by security agencies that it will be peaceful. But we have to be concerned that it's peaceful, because we've had stories about what happened in other states, Ekiti State, Osun State, and Kwara State. And this time around, the strength of our security agencies will be dispersed to all the 36 states in the country. So what we have in Anambra State here will be far less than what we have in the governorship election. And being a national election, we are not immune, and we shall not be immune to forces from the outside, other parties and so on. So we, the number of people, will now have to be very alert and to do things for ourselves. We've talked about party democracy, internal party democracy is very important, which will lead us to the national democracy. And we talked about the cost of elections, which is very, very high, probably higher than anywhere else in the world. Global. And with that, it becomes difficult for ordinary people that have ideas in a democracy to rise to the top. I think we've got to address that. And yesterday in Abuja, the issue of vote buying by parties came up and all of that. These are things that have to be stopped one way or the other. And all of us who are the citizens and who are the leaders, civil society, traditional institution, town unions, everybody must sensitize our people. Ultimately, power belongs to the people. So for 10,000 naira, you lose your ability to be part of the governance of your country. It's not worth it. And this election, we may not succeed, but something we have to continue and continue and continue. And finally, the party primaries were not good for all the parties. We have to accept that. But it is important for all the political parties between now and the election to try and resolve some of these internal challenges so that the parties can come up with one front to contest, so we know who is contesting and who we're voting for, rather than people staying in one party and sabotaging that party on behalf of the other parties and so on. So it's very important that all parties should try and set up committees to resolve the differences within the party so they can go to the election with a common front.
As would be expected, the Independent National Electoral Commission representative took the opportunity of the dialogue to provide fresh insights into the coming elections and the readiness of the electoral umpire to midwife the next democratic dispensation.
If you could come out to get registered, why would you want to get the permanent voter's card? Without the card, then all the time and effort you made to get yourself registered is in vain. And that also means that you will not be part of the 2019 general election. So, good enough, we have all stakeholders here. And we want to appeal to President Generals, Ndigbo, all political parties, the churches, everyone, especially the beneficiaries, the political parties. Please, talk to your people. If you have registered, we have over 100,000 cards to be picked up. That is in addition to those that have not been picked up from 2015.
The chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, in Anambra State, Honorable Isaac Awka, spoke on the imperatives of ensuring that the peace of Anambra State will remain unbroken before, during, and after the coming elections.
It is critical for any free, fair, and credible election to be ensured in any polity. Political parties must learn to practice internal democracy. So it is our mandate to compel political parties to do the needful. Because when the right things are done within the political parties, it will be easy to control the larger society.
Similarly, the Deputy President General, Ndigbo, Chief Hilary Opara, told the audience that Ndigbo stood for peace and unity of the country and would not accept anything less than a peaceful conduct of the coming elections. The Ohaneze chieftain also provided a deep insight into what the Apex Igbo socio-cultural group was doing to ensure peaceful and hate-free election in Igbo land.
So I want to ask all politicians, it is good to vie for political offices, but remember that after that, the country, the unity of the country, should reign supreme. We have been able to enlighten our people. First, to get their voters' cards and get ready to vote the candidates of their choice. This is very important. And to be peaceful during electionary campaigns and during conduct of elections. That is what Ohaneze is doing. We are doing that at NEC level, Enugu, and then all the 7 states of Ohaneze. We are doing that even beyond the 7 states of Ohaneze, because every Igbo man, every Igbo woman is a member of Ohaneze, whether in Nigeria or in diaspora.
Also speaking on behalf of the Anambra State Commissioner of Police, Mike Okonkwo expressed the readiness of the security agencies in the state for the 2019 elections.
We want to assure that the coming elections in 2019, the security agencies are very, very ready. We've already commenced training of our personnel. We have marked out flashpoint areas. In fact, we have done threat analysis. Therefore, I can say unequivocally that we are ready for the election. We are ready to go. We want to assure the people that nobody should feel intimidated.
In his own address, the Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Ibn Chambers, described Anambra State as a UN-friendly state and Chief Obiano as a UN-friendly governor. Mr. Chambers spoke extensively on the agenda of the day.
And if things did not go well in Nigeria, it will not be a matter only for Nigerians. That the rest of Africa would feel it. Of course, the immediate sub-region of ECOWAS would have been the first and will always be the first to feel it. So all of us have a stake in this election. You Nigerians first and foremost, but you know your neighbors who always look up to Nigeria for leadership, and indeed our entire continent. So let us all endeavor to ensure that the right things are done, and done so transparently, professionally, with integrity, that these elections are well conducted, and that the peaceful atmosphere will be provided to ensure that come February 2019, once again, Nigerians will be celebrated for providing leadership in democracy, the consolidation of democratic governance, which will bring more stability to this country and democratic dividend in growth, job-creating growth, security and prosperity for Nigeria, which, if it happens, will inure to the benefit of the entire West Africa sub-region and our dear continent, Africa.
When the dialogue finally ended, it was no longer in doubt that the 2019 general election had gathered considerable momentum. But it was also evident that many other countries across the world are hoping that Nigeria will hold free, fair, and credible elections in 2019, and also strong enough to manage all the post-election catharsis that would follow the outcome of the elections.
With all our hearts, we pray and ask, God bless Anambra, God bless the shining light that we bear. We're the only ones to make her brighter, the only ones to make her better, the only ones to make Anambra shine.